Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We will continue with the discussion on the structure of backbone. As we saw that there are total 33 bones in the spinal column or vertebral column, 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral and 4 coccygeal vertebrae. So we will see their structure in some more detail. So as we have seen that cervical vertebrae are designated as C1 to C7. And the first one is, of course, C1, and it is called atlas. So this is the first cervical vertebra and therefore abbreviated as C1. This vertebra supports the skull. So as we saw that spinal column starts from the distal end of the skull. So at the proximal end, the spinal column is attached to the skull. Its appearance is different from the other spinal vertebrae. So this has a special shape because it supports the skull. It houses the skull in a way. So the atlas is a ring actually, a beautifully made ring of bone, and it has two lateral masses. I will show you those masses joined at the front and back by the anterior arc and the posterior arc. Then the second cervical vertebra is axis. It is abbreviated as C2. It has a tooth-like process or projection that projects upward. It is also referred to as dens. That is the Latin word for tooth. The dens provides a type of pivot and collar, allowing the head and atlas to rotate around the dens. So this is the structure of both of these. So this is atlas. So as it was mentioned that it has some beautiful sort of recess made to actually support the skull, the lower part of the skull. So your skull actually sits very beautifully on this axis. Now the joint between atlas, so skull sits on it, on atlas, and the joint between atlas and skull is one that is used to move the head front and back. So for example, once you say yes and shake your head in front direction and move it back, that is because of the joint between atlas and skull. Similarly, this part of the C2 vertebra that is axis that moves inside this atlas C1, and this joint helps you to rotate your head in, for example, in clockwise or counterclockwise direction. So, for example, once you say no, so you tilt your head to say no. So that is because of the joint between atlas and axis. So that is also called a pivot joint. So, but overall, you can see the structure is very irregular. So that is why these are called irregular bones. And again, you can see beautiful shallow recess on which the atlas will rest, similar to the atlas. So it has a very flat, smooth ring type shape to house the skull. Then we have 12 vertebrae for upper back. So they are designated as T1 to T12. Now you can see that their shape is very different than atlas and axis. So this one is called vertebral body, and that actually houses the intervertebral disc. So here, or on upper side of this will be intervertebral disc. And there are some projections you can see. They are used for muscular attachments. So these are also called, these projections are also called processes. And then there is a hole numbered as 5, so that is called foramen. The spinal cord actually passes through this hole. So in the lateral view or side view, you can observe similar things, these projections for muscular attachments. And these points actually, these one on the side, they also make the joint with the adjacent vertebra. So these are called facet joints. But as a whole, the structure of thoracic vertebra is very different than the cervical. Then we have 5 lumbar vertebrae, L1 to L5. So their structure is slightly similar to the thoracic, but still it is very different. But the one thing that is common is this vertebral body. Again, here disc will be attached here on this point, and there will be a vertebra above this, and a vertebra, for example, below this, and there will be intervertebral disc between two adjacent vertebrae. So there will be disc here as well as here. So that acts as shock absorber. And you can also observe the processes for muscular attachment, for the attachment of ligaments, and foramen for the spinal cord and nerve roots. So lumbar vertebrae of the lower back graduate in size. So the size also increases as we move from L1 to L5. These vertebrae bear much of the body's weight and related biomechanical stress. So these vertebrae have a very important role to play. Very important role to play. So they bear much of the body's weight and related biomechanical stresses. So L1 to L5 cushions between bodies of vertebrae with the help of intervertebral discs. So these discs actually act as shock absorbers, and they are made up of cartilage. So these discs are made up of cartilage. Then we have S1 to S5 sacral vertebrae, and as we have seen that they are located behind the pelvis. 5 bones S1 to S5 fused in a triangular shape. They form the sacrum, total 5 bones. The sacrum fits between the 2 hip bones connecting the spine to the pelvis to make a joint. We have seen it. The last lumbar vertebra articulates with the sacrum. So we will see this point as well. And the last 4 bones are coccyx. So these are also fused together. So from this figure, these points will be clear that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sacral bones, they are fused together, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 coccyx bones fused together. And we have seen repeatedly that at this point sacrum makes joint with pelvis, and we also see that this last lumbar vertebra L5 is also sort of attached to the sacrum, and this is L5, so this would be L4, and this is of course S1. So this disc between L5 and S1 is called L5S1 disc. Similarly, this disc between L4 and L5 is L4L5 disc, and of course this disc will be L3L4 disc, intervertebral disc. So it acts as shock absorber, and you can see these projections are used for muscular attachment. So muscles and ligaments of the backbone attached to these projections. So this is overall structure of the sacrum and coccyx, and where sacrum attaches to the lumbar vertebra, that is L5, and you can see that this is the last disc. Actually, we can't see any further disc, as there was no disc between atlas and axis, so there is no disc between sacral vertebra and coccygeal vertebra as well. But we do have intervertebral disc between vertebrae of thoracic part as well as uh, cervical and lumbar, except for atlas and axis. So we have seen the structure of the backbone, and finally the functions of the vertebral column. We have seen that they range in size. Vertebral bodies are the weight-bearing structure of the spinal column. Upper body weight is distributed through the spine to the sacrum and pelvis. And importance of the curves is also important, is to be orthotic and lordotic curves provide resistance and elasticity in distributing body weight, and axial loads sustained during movement. So just imagine that instead of a curved shape, if our backbone was straight, what would have happened? So I give you a food for thought that instead of this one, if the backbone was something like this, what would happen? What would be the result? What would be the impact? And finally, the functions of vertebral column or backbone. So one function is the protection. The spinal cord is there that passes through the backbone, and related nerve roots, they are protected by the bones of the spinal column. Similarly, these bones are base of attachment of ligaments, tendons, and muscles. The backbone attaches to the skull on the lower part, as we have seen, and it attaches to the skull on the upper part and to the pelvis on the lower part. So overall, it keeps the structure rigid and robust. Flexibility and mobility, so there are many movements like forward bending, backward bending, and many other movements that are possible because of the structure of the backbone, and we will see these movements later as well. So this was the structure and function of the backbone that we saw very quickly, and we will require this structure when we discuss some of the very important topics in the following modules. For example, the topic of posture and related guidelines will require the understanding of the structure of the backbone, the topic of biomechanics, and off and on we will refer to this knowledge in this course. So we discuss 5 parts of vertebral column and their designation, 2 types of curves, function of spinal column, and some joints like sacroiliac joint and facet joints as well. So I hope the structure of the backbone is clear to you. And finally, as a general knowledge, there are around 100 muscles and many ligaments inside the foramen between the protrusions of the vertebrae and covering the whole spine that keep the complex spinal column in delicate balance. So this structure is very complex. So I hope these concepts are clear to you. Thank you very much.